think that's the most dedicated camera on I've seen. On the treadmill, sweating it and bringing
Yeah.
it. Way to go, buddy.
We got Lynn out there walking too. Good job, Lynn Brown.
Hey, Mihai, welcome. Hey, Bridget, welcome.
Hey, Lynn.
Hey,
Brown.
Holly.
Yeah, James.
have all of you guys.
Eric. Hey, Eric.
I think
Hey.
so. It looks like it's
Lynn
a
Brown.
Lynn
Hey! Yes! Hi, Paul Martinelli!
We're doing the walk with you this morning?
When I hit check
Yes.
before I started,
I'm
I really
sweating
felt
with
my
her.
windshield.
Beautiful.
Yeah, but I don't have a permit coming back in the afternoon if
Wow.
need anything.
Thank you. Yeah, wow, we could
Yeah,
just
we
spend the
can.
morning
We
doing
want
this and
to.
just saying hello to
Easy
everybody.
walk though.
Right.
Oh, here.
Hi, Lynetta.
People from Cyprus,
Hi,
India.
Brenda. Hi. Hi, Diane. Megan.
How's
Yeah.
that?
Got my bottle of water.
I
Hey,
know,
Holly,
hey,
if you could
Andy.
make sure you screenshot
He's like,
all
darn
the
it.
pages, it would be great. Have a screenshot of everybody of all the different pages. Welcome, everybody. Okay, I think we should go ahead and, what do you think? We'll get started? You guys ready?
Yes.
So we'll go ahead and mute out the line. Module number 1. And let me go ahead and put this up. Is it on, did we switch over to screen share? Okay, there you go. We'll go to screen share. And so we got to get the legal stuff out of the way, the copyright of the presentation, no reproduction, blah, 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 blah. Everybody got that? Good. Okay, we'll go back. Thanks. Just got to do that. So first off, thank you all for jumping in and registering. We've had thousands of people, and I see my friend Dean Storer here. Dean Storer is probably one of the first guys to ever hire me to come in. Was it Eugene? Is it Eugene, Oregon? Eugene or Bend, Oregon, right? You had me fly in and do a workshop with him. He and I met back in probably 2006 when I first started with Bob Proctor. And it's so great to see as people registered. I can see the people that I've worked with, from people I worked with when I was with Brian Tracy and Les Brown and Bob Proctor, of course, the John Maxwell team. So thank you. And I also wanted to thank all of you who are licensed teachers in the Empowered Living community, those people who are licensed and certified to teach our work and to teach the content that's been created all over the world. And a special thanks to our team ambassadors. Without you guys supporting the platform, welcoming people every single day, serving on all the different committees that Andy Hall oversees. And Andy, thank you so much for your leadership over Team Ambassadors. This truly is a really unique community of people all over the world, and it grows every single day. Today would not happen without two really smart, powerful and creative women, Megan and Holly. I thank you guys so much. You guys have, in all that you do, in keeping just everything running. And then, I throw you an event. I remember I heard a comedian who has 4 kids, and they said, what's it like having 4 children? And he said, well, imagine having 3 kids, and then you're in the ocean and somebody tosses you a baby. It's like drowning, right? And so, I came up with this idea to do a free sales training while they're doing everything else to keep the Empowered Living community and platform and our other works and all of our mastermind groups going. So thank you guys. You guys did just a fantastic job. I'm at the Sound Tank studio here in Jupiter, Florida, and I can just say, if you're ever going to do an event like this, if you ever want something that's really sharp and well produced, and you want to just take the technology worries just off your agenda, you need to come down to the Sound Tank and work with Andrew Manzano. Andrew and Heather Manzano have been just great friends. And just true pros throughout this whole process. So a lot, as you guys all know, a lot goes into making something like this started. I wanted to do a sales training because I love to support entrepreneurs. I love entrepreneurs. I've been an entrepreneur my whole life. I love it when people have a dream or they have a vision and the courage to really kind of go out and pursue it. And one of the things I know that most entrepreneurs struggle with is sales. And if we think about it, there's kind of two sides of this. And we're going to talk a lot about sales over the next 4 weeks. And please understand today, we're just looking at one piece of an entire system. So there's 4 more weeks to go, or 3 more weeks after this. But I want to be sure that we talk about another component that most people, when they teach sales, don't talk about. And I think that may be one of the reasons why people who will take a sales class and learn techniques and strategies and processes just never really live that full potential. And I promise I won't go too far off on a tangent, but I do want to talk about money. No matter how good you get at what we're going to show you to do in sales over these next 4 weeks, and make no mistake about it, this is a skill. Sales is a skill, and you can learn it, and you will learn it, and we're going to help you learn it. And once you learn it, then you can master it. And once you master it, I assure you, it can lead you to financial freedom. But if you do not clear up your own paradigms, your own judgments, your own limiting beliefs, or what I call competing commitments about money, you're going to have a really hard time applying what you learn. See, you can learn everything through this course and then fail to apply it. This is why I often teach that the biggest gap in our lives is the gap between what we know and what we do. The gap between doing and knowing is often the gap of our competing commitments, the gap of our own limiting beliefs. So I wanted to start out by saying that, again, we're going to talk a lot about money. And you have to get comfortable with talking about money. And most people aren't. I mean, from a very young age, we're programmed not to talk about money, right? It's, sex, politics, and money. You don't talk about those 3 things. So when you're entering into a sales conversation, you're going to be talking about money. It is a financial conversation. And so if you're uncomfortable talking about money, if you're uncomfortable with money, if you don't have a really good sense of what money is, what its purpose for, and how you can use it and its role in your life and its role in the world, you're going to be challenged in sales during that conversation. There's going to be something about you that your prospect is just going to feel that's off. So at its most basic level, right? Money is just an idea. That's all it is. Money is an idea. Now, it's an idea that is exchanged for value. Now, that value could come in the form of a service, a product, a program. So money is an idea that collectively we all agree with the attached value that it has, right? That's what makes the idea of money work, is that there's a collective agreement around the value. In other words, I have here a $100 bill. And we would all agree, and we universally do, that the $100 bill has a value of $100. There are other currencies around the world. There's the pound, right? There's the shekel, there's the peso, there's the euro. So there's all these other currencies around the world that are exchanged in various ratios to the value of the $100 bill. Everywhere in the world, there's this collective agreement that it's a value of 100. And then we exchange that $100 bill or that 100 euro note or 100 shekels or whatever it is for services or products or programs of equal value. A real simple example would be is that you would never go into McDonald's and pay $100 for a hamburger. And the reason why you wouldn't is because the established value or the collective agreement of a $100 bill is greater than the collective agreement of the value of a McDonald's hamburger. So again, money is an idea, and it's neither good nor bad. You can do really good work in the world with money, and you can do really bad work in the world with money. It's why in all of my programs, when I teach sales or anything about money, I say the world needs you rich. I believe that the world needs you rich. This is something Lynn Brown, who's on this presentation, absolutely bought into. And she believes that the world needs her rich. And because of that, she's out doing even more good work than she was doing. See, we know what bad people do with money. Imagine if you were rich. Imagine if you had lots of money. You would probably give money to all types of charities to make an impact, to change the world for good. But in and of itself, it's just an idea. It's neither good nor bad. So if money is an idea, then we know that ideas are thoughts, and thoughts are energy. And what do we know about energy? Well, the most important thing we know about energy is that energy operates by exact law. And that should give you some really comfort, because money then operates by those same laws. And if you can understand the laws of energy and then just translate those over to the laws of money and apply them, it'll be much easier for you to work and deal with money and to break free from some of the competing commitments. So we want to understand that money is just an idea. It's exchanged for a collective agreed value, and it operates like all energy does. And what I mean by that is that this idea of money can't be created or destroyed, just like energy can't be created or destroyed. So we've had, if you think about it, we've had money or currency, and I love that word, right? Think of currency, because when we think of currency, we think of current, we think of a flow, and that's really what money's purpose to be. Money's no good stored up. It's no good under the mattress. Money only has value. This idea only has value when it's exchanged, when it's flowing, right? But we've been exchanging money or currency, the exchange of value, since the beginning of time. I mean, we've all heard of the silk trade, right? And the trail. Before we had paper coin money, we traded throughout history. We traded animals, we traded cattle, we traded grain, beans, stones, metals, all kinds of goods and services and other programs. And we would barter and trade since the beginning of time. So this system and its use of money, this idea of money being exchanged for value, has always been around, and it always will be around. And we need to make sure we don't demonize money or demonize the people who've worked to create a lot of it. Perhaps one of the biggest challenges for people in sales is them overcoming their own limiting beliefs or competing commitments about money. See, I was programmed my whole life to believe that, rich people were bad people, right? That the only way people got rich was by taking advantage of other people. And that's not true. Or maybe the only reason why some people were poor was because other people were rich, and because the rich took more than their fair share. Just think about some of the competing commitments. I mean, here I was in my life as when I was a struggling janitor, making $4.10 an hour from my old roofing job to now cleaning toilets for even less money. I wanted to be rich. But my competing commitment was that I believed that rich people were bad, that they took advantage of other people. I certainly didn't want to be that type of person, but I did want to have the money. I remember working with Les Brown, and Les Brown said, people say, money can't buy you happiness, but everybody wants to find out for themselves, right? So this idea of, the rich taking more than their fair share. But if we think about money as energy, then we know that it can't be created or destroyed. We know that it's infinite in its supply. So you being wealthy, you becoming rich, does not make in any way someone else poor. As a matter of fact, you becoming rich actually creates opportunity, more opportunity for other people to become rich. I mean, if you want to solve poverty, it's not about you giving more money, it's about you becoming more rich. I can assure you that the richer I got, the richer the people around me got. The people who worked for me earned more money. The people I did business with, my suppliers, my vendors, they all earned more money. So I would ask, as you go through this program today and throughout all of these 4 sessions, that you keep an open mind to what money really is, that you be willing to challenge some of the beliefs and competing commitments you may hold about money, about its purpose, and about the people who've worked really hard to accumulate it and then pass it on generationally. I really believe that in order for us to be successful in the skill set of sales, we need to have a positive relationship with money. So now let's talk about sales. We need to understand that the sales process, and really that's what it is. It's a process. And again, today we're looking at just one piece of a fairly complex process that we're going to break down piece by piece. But this process is the same as any other dynamic relationship you've ever had. So think about your dynamic relationships in your life, maybe with teachers or friends, mentors, maybe with your doctor or your lawyer. I think of my 5th grade teacher, John Galmoff, or my 9th grade teacher, Mr. Patton. When I think of dynamic relationships, I think of my mentors, Patrick Hayes and Paul Sheely. I think of my karate instructor, Master Shook. I think of my grandmother. Think about the dynamic relationships that you've had in your life, the relationships that were really dynamic. And if you think about it, what made those relationships really dynamic is what we're going to talk about today as this first piece. And we're going to spend a lot of time today, this first lesson. And I think it's the most important piece because it's the start of the entire sales process. We're going to define this first piece as rapport. Okay, so now we're going to go to the PowerPoint, and for those of you who signed up by text, you were sent over a copy of the workbook, and I've kind of done more on PowerPoint for this presentation than I've ever done for a presentation, because I want to be able to allow you guys the opportunity to really see everything that I'm saying and be able to take notes. I'm fine if you want to screenshot, what comes up on the screen. Again, I just ask that you don't distribute it out or just violate the copyright agreement we put at the front. Okay, so let's go to the PowerPoint. So let's talk about rapport for a moment. Okay, what is rapport? So we're going to define rapport for this program, for this course, this way. Rapport is a relationship characterized by agreement. It's a mutual understanding or empathy that makes communication possible and easy. So when you're in rapport with somebody, there's an empathy exchange. There's an agreement being exchanged. There's a mutual understanding. So by establishing, building, and maintaining rapport with your prospect, you can take them through a process of influence, showing them how you can solve their problem, meet their need, and satisfy their want. So let's talk about what rapport is not. Rapport is not manipulation. Manipulation is the control or influence of another person or a situation that's unfair or unscrupulous. I'm going to just tell you that in the sales process, if you act out of integrity, if you act in an unfair way, you will break rapport instantly. Another thing that rapport is not is it's not commonality. It's not the state of sharing features or attributes that you have in common with the other person. See, in the area where most people fail in sales is confusing rapport with commonality. This is why you can go in and have a sales conversation with someone and really laugh it up, and you and the prospect hit it off. My goodness, you have so much in common. You have boxer dogs and they have boxer dogs. You went to the University of Pittsburgh and they went to the University of Pittsburgh. And you guys left and you were fast friends. And then they Casper the Friendly Ghost on you on the follow-up. Or they end up giving the business to someone else. And you say, like, what went wrong? I'll tell you what went wrong. People don't want to buy from people just like them. They want to buy from an expert. You having something in common with them means absolutely nothing to establishing you as an expert. So there's 4 purposes of rapport, and commonality is not one of them. Number 1 is to establish an instant connection, and we're going to show you that this happens within 4 seconds. I'm so excited for you to meet the faculty that we've put together for this program, particularly Holly Lanesmith. She is a sales killer. You will learn so much from Holly, and she's gonna show you that in the first 4 seconds, you can establish an instant connection with someone, and it has nothing to do with commonality. Number two is establish yourself as an expert, as this trusted advisor. Again, nothing to do with commonality, nothing to do with manipulation. Number three, to establish, build, and maintain certainty. That word is critical, and we're going to talk about it here in about a minute. And number three, to establish yourself as the leader in the conversation. I want you to look, if you're taking notes, I want you to write this word down, authority. Write it down, authority. At the end of the day, when you have rapport with someone, you have authority. Now, authority does not mean power over someone else, right? There's a respect we have for authority. It's a healthy respect. So these are the four purposes of rapport. So let's define then what sales is, okay? Sales, and this is our definition, sales at its highest level is the transference of emotion. The primary emotion is certainty, okay? Now, let's break this down for a second. We're saying that sales is the transference of emotion. In other words, in every sale, the sales process is all based on emotion. And we have to transfer the emotion of certainty to the other person. So your prospect can only get certainty from you. There's no other place that your prospect can get certainty. It has to be transferred from you. And it's an emotional state. If we think about what certainty is having a firm conviction that something is the case. It's a fact that is definitely true. It's a belief that an event is definitely going to take place. In other words, when you have established rapport to the degree that your prospect has certainty in what you're saying, they believe that you're going to do what you say you're going to do, when you say you're going to do it, the way you said you're going to do it. They don't expect any surprises. And you have to be able to transfer this to them. You have to understand, on a scale from 1 to 10 of certainty, the buyer needs to be at a level 10 in these three key areas. Number one, they have to be certain that you're an expert. Like you really know what you're talking, that you are sharp as a tack, that you are a person who can get it done for them. And not only sell them the program, but after you sell them the car, after you sell them the insurance policy, after you sell them the coaching program, that you're going to be the person that if something goes wrong with the company, if something goes wrong with the car, if something goes wrong with the service, that you're going to step in and be there for them. They also have to have certainty that your product, your service, your program is going to solve their problem and meet their needs. And number three, they have to have certainty that your company operates with integrity and trust. If you don't have certainty in these three areas, what you are likely going to hear when you make the closing statement in that presentation is, let me think about it. Let me check with my wife. Let me check with my husband. Let me get to the board. You know what? Right now is just not the best time. We're going to define all objections as a smokescreen for uncertainty, that whenever your prospect gives you an objection, that's really nothing more than them saying, you have not established enough certainty for me to make an affirmative decision today. It has nothing to do with the objection. It has everything to do with you breaking rapport and not establishing certainty. You've got to get that in your head. If you think it's anything less than that, if you really believe that it's the money, if you really believe that it's the season, if you really believe that they have to check with other people, and that's the reason why they're not moving forward, you're dead wrong. What they're really saying is, you haven't given me enough certainty. I'm not certain about you. I'm not certain about the product. I'm not certain that this is the right decision. And where can they get that certainty other than you? Here's why this is important. If we think about how we operate as human beings, we operate through the use of our mind, right? We are God's highest creations. And what separates us from all other all other living things that God has created is our ability to think. It's the highest function of which we're capable of. And we think through a process of using our conscious mind and our subconscious mind. Now, these are two different parts of our mind, yet working in harmony with each other, but they serve two different purposes. And in the sales process, the most important thing for us to do is understand this model, because in every dynamic relationship, we're going to access the conscious mind of our prospect and anchor what we want the prospect to do in the subconscious mind. So our conscious mind is our thinking mind. This is where our free will lies. This is our ability to make decisions. Our subconscious mind is our emotional mind. If you're taking notes, I'd like you to write down emotion and write down energy in motion. See, this part of you is where all of your beliefs are stored. This is where all your habits are stored. This is where, all of your self-image, your self-concept resides. The early Greeks referred to this as your heart of heart, your sanctum sanctorum. This is you. When you talk about you, this is the part of you that you're really talking about. The power of this is that our emotional mind is where all of our beliefs are stored, and our beliefs drive our behavior. So in our thinking mind, we can choose our thoughts. Now, we can choose thoughts based on what we see and hear. So we can use our five senses. We can choose our thoughts based on what people tell us. We can also choose thoughts based on what we've thought in the past. We can pull up old memories, and that can influence the thoughts we think. But as we begin to entertain a new idea, if we'll have an idea come into our conscious mind and it makes some logical sense, and we give it a little bit of our attention, then that thought automatically, through a lawful process, it's called the perpetual transmutation of energy law. By law, that energy is then transferred down to our subconscious mind and registers as a feeling. Now, feeling is a word that we describe to define the conscious awareness of our vibrational state. Let me say it again. Feeling is a word that we created to describe the conscious awareness of how we feel. You've all said it, have you ever met somebody and in the first 4 seconds say, I just didn't get a good vibe from that person? Come on, show of hands. How many of you have done that? Come on, show of hands. This is why the camera's on. I can see you. Yeah. And so what are you really saying is you're saying, I just didn't get a good vibe from that person. There was something that was off, and it happens that quick. You don't have to have a long conversation to know whether you have what we call a micro agreement, whether you're in harmony with that person's vibration. Now, if we feel positive about that vibration, we'll act in a positive way. If we feel negative about that vibration, we'll act in a negative way. So if we have uncertainty, how do you think we're going to act? How do you think a prospect who has the emotional vibration of something's not right here, do you expect them to buy from you? Absolutely not. And the power of this is that our actions then produce what we call results. So if we want to change the results that we're getting in our own lives, or that we're trying to guide someone else to do, we have to change what's going on in the emotional mind. So let's look at it this way. I said in the beginning that sales is a dynamic relationship. And so in every dynamic relationship, there's an originator and there's a subject. We've all experienced this. There's the teacher and the student. There's the doctor and the patient. There's the lawyer and the client. There's the parent and there's the child. And one has authority, not necessarily over the other, but authority in that particular setting, and only in that particular setting, right? Because we can have, and we often do, are the originator, have authority when we're maybe at work, and then at home, we kind of take that hat off and all of a sudden we become the subject. And so when we have a really dynamic relationship between the originator and the subject, we're in perfect rapport. And so what this looks like is, as the originator, as the sales professional, you have an idea, you have a concept. After listening to the subject, you have an idea of what your product or your program, your service can do for that subject. And what you're trying to do is you're trying to communicate the value of what you have over to the logical mind of the subject. But it doesn't stop there. Because in order for that subject to really make a move, to make the decision to buy, we've got to get it out of the logical mind and into the emotional mind. We've got to transfer the knowledge we have of our product, our program, and our service, and the certainty that it's the right decision for our subject, bypassing the logical mind and anchoring it into the emotional mind. We need our subject to become emotionally involved. And there's several tools to do this. And the most important one is tonality. Tonality, tonality, tonality. If you've got the workbook, underline it, highlight it. It is critical. It is why we will dedicate, I think it's session number 3. We will dedicate week number 3 to this entire topic of certainty. There are 9 tonalities that you use in order to influence and persuade and build certainty, to establish and maintain rapport. The other tools are gestures, there's images, there's ideas, and there's words. And we're going to talk about all of these today. But these are the tools that we use to establish rapport and to bypass the logical mind of the subject and anchor our idea into the subconscious mind, the emotional mind, where all decisions are acted on, into the mind of the subject. Now, there are 3 delivery systems for these tools: shock, fascination, and agreement. Now, shock could be the use of a statistic that maybe the subject, hadn't heard before. And it's like, whoa, like, wow, I wasn't expecting that number. Shock could also be the use of a particular word that they may not have expected you to use. That would just kind of just makes them, wow, like, what was that? Just for a second, it just kind of bypasses that. It just kind of shocks that conscious mind, and then boop, it goes right into the subconscious mind. Images, certainly we can show pictures. We can even show gestures. We can use certain words, but the most powerful shock is the use of tonality. See that? I can go very fast when I'm talking and become very engaged. And then when I just slow down just a little bit, it makes the subject wonder, like, whoa, hold it, what's going on? There's a shift here in energy. I need to pay attention. And in that moment of time, your idea becomes anchored into the subconscious mind. It happens in the fraction of a second. The next is fascination. We've been doing this since the beginning of time. Storytellers. It's kind of like, hey, once upon a time, right? You're around the campfire. It was a dark and stormy night. So again, fascination, the use of tonality, images, and words. And then there's agreement. Now there's explicit agreement. Those are pretty obvious agreements that we make. But in the sales process, we're going to be talking a lot about micro agreements. The last agreement somebody will make will be an explicit agreement where they say, yes, I want to buy it. But before the explicit agreement, I'm going to suggest that there's probably upwards of 200 micro agreements that your prospect will have to make. I mean, I think at some level, all of us have heard this idea of, us trying to get the buyer to say yes and yes and yes, because then it makes it harder for them to say no. Well, there's an exact law of influence for why that's the case. So let's just really understand why this is important. It's because people make the decision to buy from their emotional mind, and then they justify it with their logical mind. So it's the 65-year-old guy having a midlife crisis who buys the red Corvette and, comes home. He's wanted the car since he was 12 years old. He's finally made it. Now he's got enough money, he can buy it. He buys the car, he comes home and he tells his wife, about the great gas mileage it gets. Right? But he's got great gas mileage and it's really safe. And he's justifying it for logical reasons, but he made an emotional decision when he bought the car. So what can you do to establish rapport? So you're the originator here. You're the one that has the authority in the relationship. What can you do to establish this rapport very quickly? Because you have to get it right from the start. And most importantly, how do you hold that rapport during the entire sales process, not just during the sales conversation? Because many of us know, we may meet with Jim or Mary today, and we have to have another meeting and another meeting. It could take 2 or 3. I mean, the sales process could be 3 months long, and often is. I mean, I think, the higher the price and the higher the action threshold required on the side of the buyer to implement the purchase that they've just made, the longer that sales process is. And you have to maintain authority in that relationship the whole time, a lot of the times when you're not even in front of the prospect. So we're going to share with you 10 ways to do this, okay? So number 1 is the use of keywords, phrases, and what we call language patterns. Language patterns will be critical as you work off of a script, and you need to work off of a script, okay? You're going to need to work off of a script. If you're going to be successful in sales, you have to work off of a script. So here's some key phrases. Sound fair enough? Let me ask you a few quick questions. The reason for the call. Just give me one shot. You are definitely a perfect fit for this program. How's it going today? So how long have you been in business? The use of the words now and the use of the word so. These are periodically as transition words from one tonality to the next, or from one thought to the next. So let's shift gears here as an example. So what these words do is they allow you to shift the energy of the conversation in a way that feels natural and smooth to the other person while keeping them engaged. I love the use of the word perhaps, because let's face it, sometimes the subject, the buyer, doesn't know what they're talking about, right? Sometimes they have misinformation. What they believe is incorrect, and you need to be able to move them to understanding what is the truth or what is real. So this is a great word to use when you're telling your prospect that they're incorrect, that they may want to be open to a new idea. When you're seeding a suggestion, this is a beautiful word. Mary, perhaps the first step is to get you started with the basic package. Perhaps. I'm not telling Mary it's the first step. It's still her choice, but I'm conveying the message. Mary, perhaps the first step is to get you started with the basic package. I think it's important for us to highlight here that the use of any one of these tools in and of themselves may be insignificant. It's when you compound them and when you blend them together, when you stack one on top of the other, that it becomes really, really powerful. So let's look at this one, because this is a really powerful one. I hear what you're saying, Mary, but does the idea make sense to you? Do you like the idea? So you're going to use this phrase when you're deflecting an objection. So Mary says, you know what? I just don't have the time right now. You know what? I have to check with my husband. You know what? The board isn't sure right now. And so what we want to do is we want to deflect that objection, and we want to get some micro agreements from Mary, because she just gave us an objection. We need to get her out of no, right? Mary just gave us a pretty big no. We need to get Mary back to yes. But the likelihood of us getting Mary back to a pretty significant yes when she just gave us a hard no is going to be difficult. And if you do try to get Mary back to a hard yes, and you try to show Mary that maybe she's wrong or that she doesn't need to talk to her husband, that she's capable of making this decision, how do you think that's going to go with Mary? You will instantly break rapport. So here's what we want is we want a micro agreement. We want to actually what we call lower the action threshold on the agreement. I don't necessarily need to get Mary to agree that she doesn't need to check with the board or that she doesn't need to delay this. I just need to get Mary to agree that she likes what I'm saying, that she likes the idea, that the idea makes sense to her. So if we look at this, we're acknowledging that we heard the objection. I hear what you're saying, Mary. That's important because people can't hear until they've been heard, right? So she has to know that you've listened to her. You know, I hear what you're saying, Mary. And now I'm then going to deflect the objection and I'm going to ask a question. But does the idea make sense to you? Do you like the idea? See, there's no big consequence to her saying, yes, she likes the idea, and yes, that the idea makes sense to her. There's no big fight in her. Yeah, she'll, usually what Mary will say, yeah, it makes sense. Yeah, I mean, yeah, I like it. And that's your opportunity. That's your opportunity to say, great, because it really is a good idea. Now let me share with you the next piece. And now I'm going to share with her a feature or a benefit that will overcome her objection without me being in her face and without me trying to power over her. Remember, it's authority. It's not power. Write that down, write that down, write that down. It's authority. It's not power. Does that make sense? Just a show of hands. Let me just see it if I'm landing the plane here. Yeah? Okay. So the result is that your prospects feels heard and it allows them to move to the next stage in the sales conversation without them getting stuck on the objection. Okay. Now, look, we're going to take you through the entire sales process. We're going to talk a lot about this next week, but this is the use of key phrases. If you're selling at an event and it's taking place at a resort, then call it a resort and not a hotel. If something is something free or is it complimentary, because there's times where you would use both words. Remember, we're talking about establishing rapport and maintaining rapport, and we're talking about 10 ways you do that. The first way is through the use of words, phrases, and language patterns. Okay. So do you use the word free or complimentary? There's different times you would use them. Does someone want to sign up, or does someone want to unlock exclusive access? Think about that. See, you want to know your audience. You don't want to. You certainly don't want to speak above them, and you don't want to speak down to them. Don't try to impress your prospect with your vocabulary. Understand that in this sales process, you are fighting to build and establish certainty. There are no free words, right? Every word you say is fighting for its life. It's why you have to have a well-scripted communication. It's why you have to have chunk vignettes of your presentation, thought in advance. So when you're in this dynamic relationship, you default to using the right tonality and the right words every single time. So each word and phrase is either bringing you and your prospect closer to or pushing them away from certainty. Now let's just talk about tonalities here real quick. And we're not going to spend a lot of time on this because, we're going to spend session 3. But the tonality that you use for each word and phrase should fit the message and the emotion that you want to convey to the mind of the buyer. Remember, you have authority here, dominion. So your goal here is to transfer this emotion of certainty. So the words you use and the way you say those words, the tonality influences this greatly. So each tonality allows you to customize the energy of the message to evoke or awaken whatever emotion you want your prospect to experience at that point of the buyer's journey. So there's the reasonable person tonality. Sound fair enough? Sound fair enough? Hey, Jim, I know you're really busy, but let me just ask you a few quick questions. Like, I'm a reasonable person, you're a reasonable person, the man of mystery. Now, Jim, the reason for the call. So, the reason for the call, and so I'm going to drop my voice. Hey, Jim, this is Paul with Empower Living. The reason for the call, it just that shift in tonality. It's really subtle, but when you add them all together, it's like music to the ear of the listener. The reason for the call, it's just a drop in tonality. The reason for the call, and I'm gonna pull the word reason. I'm just a little bit longer on the word reason. There's the absolute certainty. Jim, just give me one shot, and I promise you, the only reason, the only problem you'll have is that you didn't call me 6 months ago. Mary, you are definitely a perfect fit for this program. It's absolute certainty. There's the I really want to know tonality. Like, how's it going today? So how long have you been in business? It's more than just like, hey, how's it going? It's, how's it going how's it going today? And again, we're gonna work with you on all of these 9 different tonalities. They establish instant rapport. And when you can vary the tonalities, it just enriches the micro agreement. It keeps the conversation interesting, engaging. So again, week 3, we're going to teach all 9 of the core tonalities. And then what we're going to do on that call is we're going to unlock, we're going to unmute you guys and give you guys an opportunity to practice the tonalities. And I would encourage you to begin to practice these, one at a time. Work on absolute certainty, or work on the reasonable man. Fair enough. I'm a reasonable person. You're a reasonable person. Hey, let's just sit down and have coffee for a couple minutes. Fair enough, right? Number 3, speaking with confidence and certainty about what you're offering, right? Again, people want to buy from an expert because they trust an expert. They see an expert as a pro, someone who knows more about this topic. Remember, you don't have to know something about everything, but this topic you got to be certain on, and that you can help them solve their problem. So again, this is why using a script will naturally cause you to speak with greater confidence and certainty. You're not guessing at what words or what language patterns you should use next. Instead, you have a plan in front of you to elegantly move you and your prospect from the start of the conversation to the close, giving you a predictable outcome. Number 4 is, pay attention. Pay attention to the pain and the pleasure of what your client seeks, right? They've got a problem. There's pain in that. They're seeking a resolution. There's pleasure in that. We want them to camp out in the pain for a little while. So one of the phases of this sales conversation is the intelligence gathering. The intelligence gathering is not the phase where you're going to try to learn, about them necessarily, about where they grew up and what the business, that's the least important that you need to uncover. What you need to do in the intelligence gathering, and most salespeople never do this because talking about the problem, most people see as negative. But if the prospect isn't 100% aware that they have a problem and what this problem is costing them, then there's no urgency for them to resolve it using you or your program. So as a sales professional, you need to be aware of what the problem is, and you want to make sure that your prospect is acutely aware of their problem. And the more pain your prospect feels, the more urgently they're going to want to have that problem resolved. But you can't resolve the problem for them too early. So let's say, I know many of you are coaches and trainers. Let's say you're talking with someone and somebody says, yeah, well, we've got a problem with our team communication, and you interrupt and say, no problem. I got a great, we'll put you in the DISC, we'll sell you the DISC communication thing. It'll solve all the problems. Well, you just solved their problem for them. You didn't let them feel the pain of that problem. You need to give them the opportunity to feel the pain for more than just a minute or two. You want them to really think about what's not solving this problem going to cost you in the future? What's the long-term ramifications if you don't fix this right now? So, during the sales presentation, after you're done with the intelligence gathering, you can describe all the pleasure of the features and benefits that you offer. But this is your opportunity to show kind of how your prospect, how you can solve their problem. But now they're at least aware that they have the problem and they understand the consequences of the problem they have. Number 5 is active listening. Whether in person or over the phone, it's essential that you demonstrate to your prospect that you're listening and that you're doing this intentionally. So, we can use the vocal cues of yeah, or I understand. But here's where most people fail. What most people do is they interrupt the prospect. See, even though you're saying or or yeah, I understand, while they're talking, you think what you're doing is kind of not interrupting them because or or yeah isn't a word, but it breaks the cadence of the speaker. And anything that breaks the cadence of a speaker is an interruption. You broke their flow. And I don't know about you, but it happens in a split second. It happens in a split second when somebody interrupts me. No matter how good intentioned, it breaks rapport with me. It just aggravates me a little bit. Just now that doesn't mean that I'm not going to buy, but did that move me closer to having certainty that I can trust Jim is going to represent me and my firm? No, it's kind of moved me away. So we want to really understand that even our body language can indicate whether we're listening. So mirroring the stance, nodding, maintaining eye contact, critically important. For those of you that are doing virtual events, don't look at the screen. Like when I look down and I can see Rick, I can see Megan, right? I can see Mary, I can see Andy, I can see you guys, I can see Dean, I can see you guys on my screen here, but I'm not looking at the camera. I'm looking at Barbara Britt right now, but hi Barbara, but I'm not looking at the camera. So I'm making sure that I look at the camera, not you guys on the screen. You want to be real. Eye contact is really important. It conveys trust. Number 6 is harnessing the power of because. So people are much more agreeable to do what you're asking when you can kind of justify the reason with any reason. So there was a because study, and you can look this up on the internet. I won't spend a whole lot of time. It was done in 1978, and then Dr. Robert Cialdini kind of made it famous, where they increased the compliance from 60 to 93%. Think about that, from 60 to 93% when they were cutting in line to make a copy. So they have a line of people waiting to use the copy machine, and somebody comes up and says, hey, can I just jump in front of you? 60% of the people would comply. But when they jumped in and they said, because my dog's in the car, because I'm rushed for an appointment, even the because I have to make a copy, everybody else has to make a copy too. But just the simple use of the word because gained compliance. So the use of a word because is a great tool when presenting pricing for either an increased or lower price. If your price is higher than your competitors, then there needs to be a because. You need to be able to justify that. And if you're going to lower your price, maybe even more so if you're going to lower your price. Because let me just ask you this. Could your price be too good to be true and break rapport? Show of hands, yes or no? Have you ever had somebody give you a price and it was actually lower than you thought? No way. And you didn't buy it because it was so low? Yes or no? Be honest. Show of hands. Yeah. It breaks rapport. So you need to have a because. Your prospect will exponentially be more likely to agree with you because you provided a justification for your statement. And look, this is used to gain buy-in and micro agreement. And it's one of the reasons why you have to be scripted, because having a script will allow you to strategically and intentionally put that into your language patterns before the sales conversation ever takes place. Number 9, no tangents, right? Don't go to Pluto, right? You want to keep your prospect in the channel of rapport, right? And when you go off on a tangent, it breaks rapport. So anytime you go off on the tangent or you allow your prospect to go off on a tangent, you're taking yourself and the prospect out of the channel of rapport. In other words, here's what you're doing is while we're in the sales conversation, if your prospect says, we went to Vail for skiing, and you jump in and say, oh, well, my husband and my wife, or whatever, my wife and my husband, me and my kids, whatever it is, we go to Vail too. And now all of a sudden you start talking about Vail. It has nothing to do about the topic at hand. Now, they may have a great conversation with you about Vail, but in the back of their head, in that little emotional part of their subconscious mind, they're saying, this is a bit of a waste of time. This person must not really value their time. It's subtle. You don't even think it matters, but it matters. Everything matters. Remember, every word is either moving you to certainty or away from certainty. And so if you're willing to go off, how many of you have been on the call with someone, you're in a meeting with someone, and somebody goes off on a tangent and you just like, the next time you have a meeting with them, you think, okay, I got to keep them on track. Have you ever had that happen where you're like, okay, I got to make sure I keep this person on track because they're going to go wandering off to Pluto? Show of hands. Come on. Screen's on, mirrors on. Come on, when cameras are on, that's for a reason. Yeah. And so it just, now all of a sudden in my next interaction with you, I'm on guard. And I don't want to be on guard. People who are on guard don't say yes when you're trying to sell them something. So when you allow your prospect to go off on a tangent, to break that channel of rapport, the dynamic from the originator to the subject is lost. And you have to immediately reestablish the position of authority as the originator. Here's a really great way to do it. That sounds really interesting, James, and let's get back to that later. So let me ask you this. Oh, take a screenshot of that. It's worth its weight in gold. That sounds really interesting, James. And let's get back to that later. So let me ask you this. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to use 2 tonalities. That sounds really interesting, James. Like, I really want to know. That sounds really interesting, James. And let's get back to that later. Do you see the difference? Do you hear the difference in those two? That sounds really interesting. And let's get back to that later. So let me ask you. Now I'm going into reasonable Manton. So let me ask you. When you're working with this particular client, or when you're working with this, would having an understanding of communication be better for you, right? So I'm going to just insert my next intelligence gathering question. I'm not going to allow the prospect, the subject, to go off. Number 8, this is fairly obvious, but what might not be obvious is that, yes, we got to dress for success. It's a cliche for a reason. But even when we're on the phone, you've got to dress for success. You can tell when people are doing the calls in their pajamas. You know what I mean? You can tell when they haven't brushed their teeth and combed their hair, right? There's a different energy you bring. And you also feel more confident in your own sales abilities when you show up as a professional manager. Here's what's critical, is your physiology is affected by your appearance. 100%. 100%. And what you're trying to convey is certainty. So dress the part. Number 9, critically important. You've got to be specific. Words mean things. So when a follow-up is necessary, and it almost always is, it's critically important to be specific when scheduling an appointment. So you're not going to say, let's talk next week. I mean, have you ever met with your lawyer or your doctor and they say, well, just let's talk next week? No, there's an appointment that's set. Or say, you know what, I'll just give you a call. Just give me a call next week. Like I'm not busy. Just give me a call next week. I'm not important. No, let's talk next Tuesday at 3 p.m. Right? Just, again, a doctor or a lawyer schedules precise appointments, and so do you. It shows that it's not about valuing their time. It's about showing them that you value your time, because the absence of that projects that you're not a pro. And people don't want to buy from somebody who's not a pro. This is about maintaining rapport and what we call the gap of interaction. So make a commitment and follow through. In number 9, we talked about this, but here's what we want to do. When we set an appointment, whether it's your first appointment or a follow-up, set yourself up with an obligation and meet the obligation. What do we mean by that? So what I'm going to do is in my conversation with Mary or Jim, what I'm going to do is I'm going to commit to giving them something. I'm going to commit to doing something. I'm going to obligate myself. I'm going to give my word to something. And what this does is this gives me an opportunity to live into it, to build trust. So, as I'm ending the call, I'm going to say, so Mary, we'll meet again on Tuesday at 3 p.m. Now on Monday, Mary, Megan with my office at 9 a.m. is going to be sending you a report so that you can receive it prior to our Tuesday meeting. Fair enough? Now notice how I was fairly pointed. So Mary, I'm very directive, and then fair enough. So I'm telling her exactly what time everything's that she's going to get this email at 9 o'clock in the morning. I'm going to send you this report. And I'm not just going to send it to you. I'm going to tell her why I'm sending it. I'm sending you the report so you can review it prior to the Tuesday meeting. Fair enough? There's a lot of authority transfer here. Screenshot this. There's a lot of authority being conveyed here. And it's important. It builds rapport. It establishes certainty. It builds confidence. Okay. Number 10. So again, we're continuing to making a commitment to your prospect and then meeting the commitment. It builds trust in the mind of your prospect. Do not make a commitment and then send them, do not make a commitment to send them one thing and then bombard them with a bunch of other stuff. This is not your new friend. This is your prospect. You don't say, hey, I'm going to send you a report, and then the next day send them a funny joke. You don't say, I'm going to send you this report, and the next day send them some other reports that they may be interested. They may not be interested in them. They may not be interested in them. Send what you say you were going to send and nothing else. And if you want to send them something else, you're going to reach out to them and you're going to ask permission to do it. And that's maintaining authority. But you're not going to ambush people. Don't send them anything that they're not expecting and that you did not say you were going to send them. It's really quick. So let's look at these. So there's the use of keywords, phrases, and language patterns, the use of varying tonalities, speaking with confidence and certainty about what you're offering, bringing attention to the pain and pleasure, but talk about the pain first. Go ahead, I'll let you guys screenshot that so you can get it. Number 5, active listening, harnessing the power of because, don't go off on a tangent, dress for success, be specific when scheduling a follow-up, and make a commitment and follow through. And again, making a commitment and following through is not me saying, when you make a commitment, follow through. It's me saying, make sure you find something that you can commit to and then follow through. Set yourself up to build rapport. It's genuine and strategic. Okay, let's go back to the camera. So look, rapport can't be taken for granted, okay? You have to intentionally create it. You have to intentionally create it. And that's why scripting out what you're going to say has to be well thought out and intentional. Every single word. I can't tell you the amount of hours we've put into putting these 4 weeks together and making sure that every single word that we're saying here is written, is scripted. The language pattern is. I would never risk breaking rapport with you. And even though like Dean Store's on the phone and I've known Dean for forever and I love him and he loves me and we would have instant friends. Eileen Schwartz. I've known Eileen forever. I'm not gonna ruin our relationship and break rapport. I'm not gonna just simply think that I have it. I'm not going to assume it. You can't simply rely on finding points of commonality or rely on your past relationship. You don't have rapport just because somebody referred you to a prospect. That may open the door for rapport, but it has to be earned. And just because you establish rapport in the beginning of a conversation or the beginning of a relationship doesn't mean that you can't break it at any point of the conversation. You can. So there's a posture that you want to have in this sales process. And the posture of rapport kind of communicates, again, it's this authority. I would like to do business with you, but I don't have to do business with you, right? So we don't go into the sales interaction feeling as though we need the deal. Instead, you'd like to have the deal. You'd like to do business with them. You'd like to serve them as a client, but you're not desperate. You've got an important business you're running. Your schedule is busy. So it's important to not project scarcity or desperation. Remember, you have to be in control. This is about authority, calm, cool, and collected. You're the pro. And part of that means that you're not going to be over thankful. You're not going to be over thankful. Oh, thank you so much for giving up your time. I know how busy you are, and I know you're really important, and I know, So again, don't send them, a mushy thank you note that overstates your gratitude for their time. Your time is just as valuable. So keep it polished. I mean, you can say, look, it was great to connect today. I appreciate your time. I'm developing the report. I'll be sending it over to you on Monday at 9 a.m. My assistant will be in touch with you to send you the calendar invite for our appointment next Tuesday. Fair enough? So there's so much more that we could share just on this one topic, but I definitely want to leave some time for Q&A on today's content. So let me share with you just a couple of things that we're going to cover in the next few weeks. So next week, we're going to be diving into the structure of the sales conversation, okay? There is a very specific order in how you move somebody through this, what we're called channel of rapport, that you have to follow in order to kind of keep your prospect in that channel. And so next week, what I'm going to do is I'm going to lay out for you what that structure is, what the order is, so we take out all of the guesswork. And that when you can see the whole process outlined and okay, I'm moving the prospect from here. Now I'm going to intelligence gathering. Now I'm moving them from intelligence gathering to the declarative statement. From the declarative statement, I'm painting four corners. From painting four corners, I'm making the offer. After I make the offer, I'm deflecting the first objection because I know there's going to be an objection. Right? I'm going to show you next week every single one of these steps, their purpose in the process, and tools that you can use in each. So that you have a predictable result. Now, in the third week, we're going to focus on tonality. We touched on it just really briefly today, but we're going to be going over each of the 9 core tonalities, what they are, how you use them in your sales conversation so that you maximize the impact and influence in the conversation and every single word. And I'm going to be joined on that by members of my sales team and my faculty so that you can hear them do it, so you can hear different people do it. And then hopefully we have time, we'll unmute your lines and give you guys a shot to go from the tonality. Make sure that we have your best phone number so that we can text you the language patterns and those different tonalities. And then finally, in the 4th module, I'm going to be teaching you all about intelligence gathering, okay? It is critical to understand what questions you need to ask, and more importantly, maybe when to ask those questions, going from the least invasive questions to the most invasive questions. Okay? Because what we want to do, remember, what's the purpose of the intelligence gathering phase? It's to uncover their pain, to identify their problem, and to make sure that the prospect is acutely aware of the pain and the problem that they have. So it's only once you have all this kind of firm understanding that you can then present a solution to their problem that resonates with your prospect. Once you implement all of these strategies, I guarantee that you will see an increase in your closing rate. Absolutely. Now, for those of you who would really want to work with me and my team and let us focus with you and share with you just a program that we've created now where we'll be working with you in a small group. So once you master this skill, you'd be able to close all those people that you want to build the certainty for. So let's go to the PowerPoint here real quick, Andrew. And I want to just kind of go through this. Give me 2 seconds here. Let me just get to it. There we go. So what we have here is I put together a sales mastermind. It's a 2-day in-person sales mastermind. It's going to take place on January 14th through the 16th. Those dates may be subject to change, one way or the other based on the availability of the hotel. But this is 2 days in person with me and my faculty. And in that 2 days, we're going to work with you and you will leave there with a sales script for your own company, for your products, for your services. And you're going to use language patterns and tested scripting that we've used and I've used throughout my whole career, okay? We're going to also practice that script. So we're going to partner you up with other people in the class and you're going to role play your script with me and my faculty listening in so that you get it right the first time. So when you leave there, not only do you have a script, but you've used the script. We're also going to put you in the hot seat. You're going to master the tonalities. You're going to be saying the tonalities out loud and letting us hear. Now, in preparation for the 2-day live mastermind course, we're going to give you lifetime access to our sales masterclass. You've had 45 minutes of a sampling of a 16-hour course that I created a couple of years ago with Holly Lane-Smith, my teaching partner. So this course will establish the perfect foundation for the 2-day mastermind. But rather than just giving you the masterclass program, we're going to guide you through it. So bi-weekly, me and my faculty will lead live calls from September to January before, so that we're going to take you through that entire 16-hour course. It'll be recorded and downloaded. And in addition, we're going to give you lifetime access as a quick refresher course to all 4 segments of this training. And because you're part of this program, you're going to get it all for $2,497. Now, again, it includes the 2-day in-person mastermind, lifetime access to the 16-hour sales master course, bi-weekly live calls with me and my sales faculty from September to January to prep you so that you come in understanding this whole system, and then lifetime access to the recording on the sales training only for $2,497. Now, I know this. Hundreds of you have already paid $500 or maybe even $1,000 for the sales master course. If you already own the sales master course, we're going to give you a $250 voucher to the hotel. We want to honor the investment that you've already made in the sales masterclass. And we just feel it fair that if you enroll in the mastermind, the sales mastermind, we'll pay $250 towards your hotel. Okay. So let's go to Q&A. We'll go back to the camera. Okay. Was that good enough for everybody? Everybody get something out of that? Come on, show of hands. Yeah? Good? Great. Thank you so much. Megan or Holly, how do we do this?
Yeah, so if you have never been on a Zoom Q&A before, let me just show you how to do it. We already have several people who have their hands raised, so this is exciting. If you haven't yet done it, you'll either go to the participant tab and then there will be an option that says raise hand, or if you open your reactions, sometimes it's there as well. And so sometimes in the participant tab, you have to press like 3 little dots and then the options will show up. or again in the reaction section. So while we do have some people who are already in the queue, Paul, I think I'm going to go ahead and get started with Q&A, if that's okay.
Yeah.
And the first person who I saw raise their hand was Bart Nolenberger. So I'm going to go ahead and ask him to unmute.
Good morning, good morning, good morning. Hey, Paul.
Hey, Bart, how are you, bud?
Great stuff. Thank you so much. I have to tell you, I got a flight that got delayed yesterday. I got in at 2:30 in the morning, my time, and I got to get up at 4:45 my time to come see you. And I feel wide awake.
Right on.
So my question really is, I think it's more of an at an unconscious level. How do you know when to flip from one tonality to another? Is it just through constant practice? Is it because of the fact that you've repeated over and over and over again consciously? Well, how do you flip from sincerity to certainty and reasonable man and beyond?
Yeah, that's a great question. Well, there's a couple of ways. One is, yes, there at some level there is an intuitive knowing, right? So when you're in one of these dynamic relationships, if you're the originator, you're really feeling, you're managing the energy of that relationship. And as soon as you sense that it's going off, that's a cue. Now, one of the advantages to having a system and a process is that I'm gonna kind of stack the deck in my favor, because I'm going to know what phase of this interaction I'm going to be in. I'm going to control what phase we're in. In other words, when I'm talking to my prospect, if they say, well, you know what, just tell me, just, you know, give me the high level thinking, you know, I'm a really quick decision maker, you know, just give me the price. No way. We're going through the process, right? Because how many times, I know you're a sales pro, how many times have those really quick decision makers never made a decision, right? So, you know, they want to ambush the process, and because they didn't go through the process, they end up with uncertainty. So if I know that I can guide them through, you know, a process, and I know that they're in this section, they're in the intelligence gathering, or they're in my first loop, or they're in they're in the section where we paint the four corners. If I know that I'm in that section, I know there's three tonalities I'm going to most likely default to in that section that's going to maintain and keep rapport. So the more I learn the system and I have command of the 9 tonalities, then it's just like, you know, how does a mechanic know when they need a 3/8 or a 1/4 inch? They can just kind of eyeball it and grab it. Thank you. Thank you, Bart. Thank you,
All
Meg.
right. Thank you so much. So next up we have Ella Moody. So I'm going to go ahead and ask Ella to unmute her line.
Hey, Ella.
Mute. Hi. Hi,
Hi.
everyone.
Hey,
Let me see.
we
Can
got
y'all
you.
hear me?
Yep.
How's everyone doing? I'm so happy to be joining everyone today.
Thank you. Great to have you here.
Thank you.
All right, Ella,
Did
if you have a question for Paul, just let him know. And if not, we can go on to the next.
Well, actually, I don't have a question. I'm very excited, and I enjoyed the show today. I know all about Rapport because I've been doing marketing for 16 years with a doctor. So I know how important it is to keep your word. First impressions are a must, and keep following up with your clients is what brings referrals back to you. So I think it's very important that we keep that connection with our referral sources to keep the business going.
Thank you, Ella. Yeah, thank you so much. That is awesome.
You
And
know,
I just want to honor your time and
let me
everyone's
just jump on 1 second, because, you know, what Ella was talking about is rapport has to be maintained not just when you're in front of them, right, Ella? I mean, it's got to be maintained when you're not in front of them, and that's harder to do. That's, you know, good marketing will do that, but that sales conversation, how that ends, carries the energy into the future engagement. Go ahead, Megan.
Alrighty, so next up we have Jerome Duport. So I'm going to go ahead and ask you to unmute your line, please, Jerome. Did I lose you, Jerome? Okay, it looks like he dropped off the line. So next up we have Becky Large. So Becky, I'm going to go ahead and ask you to unmute your line, please.
Hi
Hey, Becky.
there. Great to meet you. Thank you so much for today. I really like the nuggets you've been imparting all week. So you were talking about, I guess, kind of controlling the conversation. And I guess I am one of those people who believes that, or has believed that up until this point, building rapport is, establishing a deep personal connection. And, we have a current prospect for a big deal that we're working on, and he goes off on tangents. And I just, I feel like we have to allow that. So, I'm uncomfortable because I've been doing this, maybe unsuccessfully or not as successfully as I could been for, 20 years. So how do you, like reorient your own self from that particular challenge?
Yeah. And can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
Becky? Okay. You risk every time they go off on a tangent, you risk them going into the unknown. It's territory that you can't control. And so I think evaluating your past results is really critical because like you said, hey, look, if you're a sales pro and you can manage the energy of allowing someone a little bit of latitude to go outside the channel rapport and maybe doing so keeps rapport, right on. But as a rule, every time they leave the channel of rapport, every time they go off on a tangent, you risk losing the sale. And so, what can you do in terms of intelligence gathering questions? What questions what questions can you use that force the conversation back to? So when Jim goes off on a tangent, you might be able to say, Jim, as I hear you talk about as I hear you talk about the trip that you took, let me ask how that relates to when you're working with the team. How does the team respond when you're not there, when you're off on your trip? Boop, and I'm gonna gingerly. I think I use the word, and you probably picked up on it, but I use the word elegantly. Right? How do we elegantly keep them in the right? without like, saying, hey, come on, get back on target here. And so can I control what happens? Maybe if I would have had a disciplined structure, that wouldn't have happened. Okay, right on. Thank you so much.
Awesome.
Who we got next?
Thanks, Paul. Next up, we have Khadijah. So Khadijah, I'm going to go ahead and ask you to unmute, please.
Hi, Paul. Morning. Morning. How are you? Paul, I admire you so much, and a lot of your story has resonated with me since I met you in 2019 IMC, right? I own a janitorial business as well, and I have a nonprofit, so I know exactly what you went through. Yeah, so I'm doing everything in my possible existence to boost my sales for my NGO. Now, that is where I do a lot of youth work, and I serve a lot. And moving from free to fee is where my biggest problem lies. I'm in the Caribbean, Trinidad and Tobago, and the culture here is pretty laid back. So there are people and companies that wish to grow people, but not everyone buys into the personal growth and all of that. So I want to know how to pivot that from moving from serving to selling. And you inspire me so much. I went as far as reading the Mike Kim book, and where he talks about you a lot. And I know that you have this competition going on to come and spend a day with you and him. So I'm really trying my best to
Right.
find my niche and get to moving from free to fee.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, thank you. Thank you so much, Khadijah. Thanks for your support. Thanks for joining. Thanks for following. And thanks for buying Mike Kim's book. I love Mike, and he's a great friend, and it's a great book for marketing if you want to learn. So I'm going to give you two tools. One is the use of the words up until now. So when you're ready to move somebody from free to fee, up until now, we've been able to provide this service for free up until now. So you're letting them know that there was a previous state and now we're going into a new state, right? So up until now, and then this is where you're going to use the word because, the strategy. You need to give them a because. You can't just say, now we're going to start charging you money. There needs to be a because. And because the work we're doing now is costing us more money, and because now we've had to move away from because we've had to move away from volunteer staff to paid staff, we're no longer able to provide the excellent services that we've always provided for free. And rather than lowering the quality of the service that we provide, we thought the very best thing for us to do is to implement a small fee structure. And I think you'd agree that the value we've been delivering to you, Jim, up until now is worthy of the investment. Fair enough? Got it? Very good. I know we've got another show on EL that starts at 9:30, but Megan, let's go. We'll keep going for a couple more minutes. Thank you, Khadijah. Thank you so much. Hope that
Alrighty,
helps.
so next up we have Didier. So I'm going to go ahead and ask you to unmute your line, please.
Yeah, good afternoon, and thank you, Paul, for the teaching. It's really deep, and I've learned quite a lot. I'm a lawyer by profession, and I'm a John Maxwell coach, and I'm trying to set up my coaching practice. The biggest challenge that I think when you build rapport, I will say from my perspective, is when you're trying to start a mastermind group and you try to approach your client on LinkedIn. I'm trying to understand, how do I get to build that rapport? Because you put a request that you're starting a mastermind group, you explain exactly the benefit, and you put a price to it. But how do you now get those clients to actually have, like you said, a call with you? Because some of them, are your connections, and you have not yet established a proper rapport by having a call with them. How do you bring them to share, like, phone details? Because most people are suspicious, privacy issues. People do not really share easily the details. So how do you bring that conversation to a one-on-one call where you can get more information and bring them closer to agree on the idea of joining the mastermind group?
Yeah, well, thank you so much. Thanks so much for being part of the team here with Empowered Living. Thanks for joining into the call today. So let me share what, again, when you're in LinkedIn, there's this is a process, right? And so a lot will happen even before you earn the right to have a conversation with somebody. So there has to be this exchange of value. So we may know it as lead magnets or lead generators, things that we can do or give that begins to establish rapport, that isn't us just giving people things. We're giving people things that establish us as the expert. So we're not just giving some free course or free program. We're giving something that establishes us as this expert, as this authority. And what we give must speak to the problem that the prospect has. So listing the features and benefits of a mastermind group probably isn't going to generate enough pain in their awareness to make a decision. People will do more to avoid pain than they will to gain the pleasure or benefit of a program. So what I would do is, rather than talking about the benefits of your program, I would talk about the problems you solve. So if you think about it, you may want to say, have you ever worked with your team given what you thought was really clear direction, and the next day walked into chaos, or the team not understanding what you said? Have you ever sat down and communicated with a peer or somebody that you're working with? You thought you were very clear on the communication, and yet when you look at the work that was done a week later, it's like they never even heard what you were talking about. If either of these problems have happened to you, I want to invite you into this workshop on communication. In this, we're gonna focus on the 5 primary reasons why people misunderstand, the 3 things you can do to better your communication. So I think you need to lead with the problem, define the problem, so that the viewer, the prospect, can say, I have that problem. I have that problem, and it's costing me. And you might want to say, is the failure to communicate with your clients costing you thousands of dollars? Is it costing you time? Are you wasting? Those are great words to use. Think of you as antagonizing the problem a little bit. Now, again, you need to earn your right to be able to have that communication. And I think it was Ella who started us right from the beginning, that talked about the need for marketing and being able to keep this rapport even in marketing. But all of your marketing needs to really be strategic. It's not just about offering a course. The marketing is about establishing you as the professional. That's what's critical. Thanks so much for jumping in. Do we have another one, Megan?
We do. So next up, we have Miss Mary Garovich. So I'm going to go ahead and ask you to unmute, please.
Hey, Mary.
Good morning, Paul. Thank you so much. This was a great session. I had put in the comments, I've been to a lot of sales trainings, but no one's ever taught tonality or taught this part of it. So this was just really incredible. And as I thought back over different transactions that where I was, being sold things, like how they use these things and how my mind and body triggered. So definitely really resonated. But my question is, recently I met with my CPA last week, and I had approached him a couple years ago about doing some leadership training for his office and things like that. Well, he brought it up to me that, he's like, you'd be so proud of me. I'm listening to Tony Robbins every day now for 30 minutes. And I'm looking into this one company, but we might need to get together. And I feel like I did a really poor job. Because I was in the middle of what was supposed to be a tax meeting for us, and I just wasn't prepared. So I was very caught off guard. And I don't feel like I did a good job listening. I feel like I just went into, here's what I do, right? Not letting him feel that pain. And I'm just wondering, so I probably did it not a great job because I broke the rapport, and I don't think I really established the authority. So as I go back to follow up with him, because he still said, hey, we should get on a call. And so I just, he has about 10 days of this weird tax season left. But anyways, just wanted to see if you had any pointers for me as I follow up with him, because I really would love to help his team.
Yeah, great. Well, hey, thanks so much for joining in. Thanks so much for being part of the program and the Empowered Living community and supporting my work. Getting rapport back is so much harder, right? Than keeping it along the way. And good for you for recognizing. I mean, you can't fix that which you don't know is broken, right? So recognizing, look, I didn't listen. I didn't establish myself as authority. Those 2 things broke rapport. Right on. You can absolutely get it back. So the good news is that he's giving you an opportunity to say, let's touch base after 10 days, right? And so I think what I would want to do is I'd want to start with, with absolute kind of sincerity, with a really sincerity tonality that, Jim, I've really given this a lot of thought. Now, in order to say that, you need to give it a lot of thought. And I know you will. So think about what you would want to provide for him for a service, what you could really do. Think back to the things that he did say and just say, as I listened to you when we were last together, what struck me most was this, what I heard was an entrepreneur that really wants to serve their team that really wants to believe in the best for people and yet is finding themselves in this position. Is does that strike a chord? Like, and that's where I'm going to go kind of reasonable tone. Does that strike a chord? Am I landing, am I landing the plane here? And then he'll say, yes, like absolutely. Now you need to do the work to think into what were those things that he said. What is that description that would match what I just shared as an example? Because of course I don't know, I wasn't there. So you're saying, what really struck me is here's what I heard. I heard an entrepreneur that really wants to grow. I heard an entrepreneur that's willing to make the investment, but just doesn't want to, spin their wheels, wants to know that the time and money investment they make, that it's going to work for them. Did I get it right, Jim? Did I get it right? Yeah, exactly. So tell me a little bit more about that. And now I'm going to enter him right into the intelligence gathering. And now I'm going to really give him an opportunity to be heard. And I'm going to give him those cues that he is being heard. And so I think if you'll follow that up, and I think maybe an email between now and then, again, not overly mushy, like, hey, look, I'm really excited for the opportunity. And I just say, dear Jim, looking forward to, our upcoming meeting on September 4th at 3 p.m. I'm going to put together some things prior to the meeting. I'm going to send you a report on communication or whatever that I think will be helpful for you to review before the meeting. And so now you're making a commitment and an opportunity for you to live into it. Yeah? Does that make sense, Mary? Yeah, right on. Thank you. Okay. I think we got time for 2 more. Thank you, Mary.
Alrighty, so next up we have John Ebron. So I'm going to go ahead and ask John to unmute, please.
Oh, maybe we'll do 3 or 4 more. I'm sorry. I can't. It's Megan. Let me just ask you this. It's Andrew. Andrew's okay. Are you okay, Megan? If I go,
I'm great. Yep.
Okay. I don't want to. Okay, go ahead. Let's go.
All right, John. Paul. Good morning. The King of Giving Value. Hear me? Okay.
Yeah, got you. Thank you, John.
Excellent. First of all, thank you so much for the training. Absolutely amazing. Can you speak more into the difference between power and authority? Because I think what I do in an attempt to not overpower, I wind up giving up my authority in the sales conversation.
Bingo. So let me ask you a question. So intuitively, you're saying to me, I give up my authority, right? And I misuse maybe power, right? Give me your understanding of the two.
So when I think of authority, I kind of think of position. And in my mind, I'm in that I'm like you, so you can like me because I'm like you kind of mentality. So I don't want you to feel that I am the consultant, the expert who is looking down at you and saying, I'm better than you, so just shut up and listen to me. And so I want to try to maybe not fight against that tendency. So I want to kind of come in as more as a peer. Then the conversation quickly begins to shift from, well, now I'm the authority since you want to be the peer. So let me tell you what you should be doing, salesperson. And, the conversation, I try to fight back my territory instead of providing a service.
Yeah, bingo. I think you got it. And so now, first off, understanding that, right? That authority is a position. Power is when we're trying to exercise control over someone, when we'll force. So power will come with force. Authority doesn't need force, right? Authority doesn't need force. I'm kind of stepfather to a little 5-year-old boy. I don't need to exercise power. All I got to do is look at him. Sometimes, right? He does sometimes I just got to look at him, and the authority, the position I hold, gets it. Now I can roll around on the floor with him and throw him around the pool, and we can be best of friends. But there is a line and there's a boundary where I'm the authority, right? Yeah. And I don't have to press power for that. Does that make sense?
Total.
And so in the sales. In the sales engagement, by me holding a position of authority, what I want to do is I want the buyer to come to me rather than me going to them in every question. I don't want to have to be digging for an answer. I want them that when I ask a question, I want them to voluntarily give that information. And they will if they feel safe, if they know they're not being manipulated, if they know that I'm not going to keep score against them, if they trust me, right?
Yes. Yes.
Make sense?
Total sense.
Right on.
Excellent. Thank you.
Yeah, right on. Thank you.
All righty. So next up we have Miss Lindsay McMillan. So I'm going to go ahead and ask Lindsay to unmute her line, please.
Hey, Lindsay.
Hi there, Paul. So my name is Lindsay and I'm based in Ireland and we have some cultural differences. So I would say my colleague Mick is on the line too. Hi, Mick. One question for you is, it's been really, really helpful, but Irish people wouldn't want to feel like they're being sold to. So when you talked about rapport and commonality, they would often direct the conversation themselves. So how would you best advise that so they don't feel like they're being sold to by redirecting? So I would find that quite challenging. Say if they want to talk about themselves or the holidays, so they would feel we'd have to get to know them really, really well before we could even possibly suggest any service or product to them.
Yeah. Well, thank you for joining in the program. And I've done lots of business in Ireland. And the beautiful thing about it is that rapport, I think, transcends culture. And this process will too. I'm not suggesting that we don't find areas of commonality. Okay. I think that's an important part of establishing rapport, right? We got to know, like, and trust someone. So, I certainly don't want to get that it's all about business. So in the intelligence gathering, and we'll look more at this, Lindsay, next week, we're going to show you, each phase of this process. And in the intelligence gathering phase, we're going to go from the least invasive question to the most invasive question. I think the key here is that I'm not going to allow that conversation to go off tangent. Okay. I'm not going to allow them to go off to Pluto. So when they start to talk about, where they've traveled in the world, I'm going to allow that to a degree, but then I'm going to bring it back. So in the beginning, I may ask somebody, so tell me about yourself, share with me. And so one of the things that you can do is you can say, you know what, so I can better understand the context of where you are, where the company is. I'd really like to just understand a little bit more about you. Why don't we spend the first 5 minutes? Why don't we spend the first five? Fair enough. Like, why don't we spend the first 5 minutes on just, let me just understand kind of your map of the world, where you came from. So like, share with me about your family, right? And so now you don't have to be that direct in saying it. That might be a little bit too American, right? but you can certainly say, so let's just get to know each other first. And that perfectly appropriate. But I'm going to define the length of time. I'm going to define the scope, right? So we can all play, but I'm just going to define the game that we play, the tools that we play, the resources we play with, and how long we're going to play. I'm going to establish the authority. Does it make sense, Lindsay? Can you yeah. And she might be muted or. Sorry. Okay. I think that helps. Okay, Megan, we'll go to the next.
Alrighty, so next up we have Sammy. So I'm going to go ahead and ask Sammy to unmute, please.
Hi, Paul. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can. Hi, Sammy. How are you?
Very good. Just want to share a very quick success story. I went through the same training with you and Holly in 2019. We following the same process, and I sold one virtual call, 10,000 USD coaching services following this process. So for all my friends who are here, perhaps doubting if this process is working, I just want to tell them that it can work. And I sold it here in Nairobi, and I was selling to someone in Australia. So one sales call, 10,000 USD. So I just wanted to say thank you, Paul. Thank you, Holly. And just to appreciate everyone who made this happen. And if they follow this process, I'm sure they'll have the success. Thank you and God bless.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Sam. I really appreciate you. Well done. Congratulations on the sale. Way to go. That's great. And again, the sales course, the 16-hour sales masterclass that Sammy's talking about, is part of the package that we put together, and it features both me and Holly. And I'm just telling you, Holly is just a fantastic teacher and practitioner. She loves sales, and she is just so gifted in that area. Okay, Megan.
Alrighty, next up we have Joe Bogart. So I'm going to go ahead and ask him to unmute, please.
Hey, Joe.
Hello, Paul, team. Big fan of the community. Just applied to be an ambassador, actually. But my question is, so I'm part of the Marine Corps recruiting effort in New England, and they're having a challenge of recruiting reservists. And all the recruiters, they're all active duty. So it's easy to sell active duty. They're in it. They've experienced it. They know it. They can sell it. They're confident. They have that certainty. But most of the recruiters are not reservists. So they're having a hard time selling reserves. They haven't experienced it. They're not confident. They don't have the certainty. So any input that you could provide will be appreciated.
Well done. Thank you so much for serving our country. And yeah, we're only able to do this today, to be free to do this, because men and women like you and those that you guys are working with make it possible. So thank you very much. This is such a great point, Joe. This is so powerful, because sales is the transference of certainty. And so if you lack that certainty and you try to make it up, man, the prospect can, they can feel it a mile away, right? You can spot a phony a mile away. And so what we have to do in those cases as sales professionals is, what does a pro do when they're unsure? They get sure. And so I would get a focus group of reservists. I would take them all to lunch. I'd spend some time with them. I'd go to a reserve meeting if that's at all possible when they do the weekend, once a month or whatever. I would see if you're allowed to just go there and observe. I would see if you're able to sit in on sessions. I would see if you're able to talk to some people. And I'd want to go in and I want to ask them all the questions. Think about what objections you would normally get, Joe. I don't have the time. Will my family support it? What happens with my job? And I'd want to understand what got those people to say yes. How did those people get over that objection? What was it that allowed you to move beyond the objection? So you might want to sit down with somebody who's currently serving and say, did you have any objections coming in? And they say, well, yeah, I wasn't sure if my boss was going to sign up for this. What did you do to overcome that objection? What was your thinking process? And listen, and they'll tell you. And I think what's really important is listen to the language pattern they use. And I'd want to really listen. I would just say, would it be okay if I just, record this just so I can really hear your words, and be honest and truthful about why you want to do this? Is, look, part of our job is to bring other people like you successfully into the program. And so we're looking for the best. I've identified you as one of the best. So I'd love to hear, what would you say? What do you think I could say to someone? What could somebody have said to you at that point in time to help you get over that objection? And I would listen. And then I would script it. And then I would begin to do it. That's what I would do, Joe. Yeah? Right on.
Awesome.
Thank you so much. Okay.
Thank you so much, Joe, for your service. And next up, Paul, we have Mr. Ariel Tolentino. So I'm going to go ahead and ask him to unmute.
Hi, good morning from the Philippines. Mabuhay.
Hey, welcome.
I would like to know if you will be offering payment plan for the Mastermind Bootcamp.
Yes,
that's
there
my
is.
question.
Yeah, thank you so much. Yeah, I think there's a 5 payment plan. Absolutely. Thanks so much. Thanks for joining. Thanks for being here from the Philippines. I know it's a different time zone and everything, so thank you so much.
Yeah. Awesome. Alrighty, next up we have Ms. Jean. So I'm going to go ahead and ask her to unmute.
There we go. Good morning, Paul and everybody.
Hey, Jean.
It's been great. It's been great. My question is, I have my tree consulting business and I have no problem establishing rapport. I show up, I do my thing. Everybody's, pleased, great customers. And I got my first referral earlier this week from a former like for my current client that they forwarded the information to them about my services. My issue is transitioning that into being able to do it as a John Maxwell coach, speaker, trainer, and you know, having that confidence to go out there and, you know, be that coach and disc consultant. I'm kind of curious. How do I do that and have that?
Yeah. Well done. Thank you, Gene. Thanks so much for your support of my work and the Empower Living community. Again, we're talking about the transference of certainty, right? And establishing yourself as a pro. And that comes just as you've earned a reputation in your primary field. You've earned that over, a number of years. You've earned that through the experience that you've gained, through the associations that you've made, through the networks you've built. You're starting into a new profession. So if you're stepping in now as a coach and a trainer and you're focusing on leadership, establishing yourself that way through practice, through gaining experience, through leveraging the association that you have with the John Maxwell team is one way to do it. But, at the end of the day, confidence is developed, and it's developed through failure, right? The best way to gain confidence, right? Failure is success's constant companion, is to get out there and put yourself out there. So maybe in the beginning, you say, you know what, I'm going to dedicate 50 hours to free coaching so that I can fail enough so that I can then begin to charge for my services. Or I'm going to dedicate 20 weeks of free mastermind groups, or I'm going to do 20 lunch and learns for free, so that I can gain enough lessons and enough confidence and enough certainty in me. That's the only way to do it, Gene. So thank you so much. Thanks again for being part of the program. Be well.
All righty, Paul. Next up, we have Mr. Carlton Francis. So I'm going to go ahead and ask Carlton to unmute his line, please.
Hey, Carlton.
Hi, Paul. How are you?
I'm doing well, thank you. How are you?
Doing a lot better now. A quick question for you. I've run into those folks that are potential clients that are uncomfortable talking about money. How do you approach it in that kind of, how do you approach something like that?
So, hey, Andrew, is there a way we can turn up the volume on this? But so I got it. But Carlton, let me ask a question. Give me some context when you say that the client's hesitant about talking about money. In what way?
Well, I'm in the money business.
Okay.
So
Okay.
when we talk about money, we talk about financial planning. There's a lot of folks that don't like to give you all the information. And I get the impression they view me maybe as somebody who makes a lot of money. Something to the effect that you were talking about at the beginning of the session.
Yeah. I work with a lot of financial planners. I love financial planners. I think the work you do is so critically important in the world. If people would latch on to someone like yourself early in their life, it could change your life. And if they would just latch on to you, the best time to start investing money is when you don't have money, right? And it doesn't take a lot. 500 will get you started. And it's about developing the muscle of discipline to put just a little bit away every single month. And, the compounding effect of consistency pays off. So your work is so important in the world. Keep doing it. Because, a financial planner was a big part of changing my life. It really was. Because it helped me understand money. And most people don't understand money. They're afraid of it because they don't understand it. And so I think one of the things that I've learned for financial planners, and there's a couple of other professions where this comes up, where you're talking about something that people are just uncomfortable talking about. They have lots of self-judgment about, and they have a lot of projected energy towards it, is you have to slow this process down really elegantly. You probably have to take what you would normally do in what would be a first get to know you session, and it might take 2 or 3 sessions so that you build massive rapport absolutely massive rapport. I've often found that when helping somebody break through this one of these type of limitations, showing them choices, showing them options. There's a choice between, there's a difference, and there's a choice between prosperity and poverty. And so let's look at what prosperity is and let's look at what poverty is. And which would you choose for your life and your children? Which of these outcomes would you choose?
Okay.
Right? There's a difference between, wealth creation and financial struggle, living within your means, right? Which is so let's define what these would be. And then let me ask you, which do you think you would want to have you and your family live in? Which would be better? And so they're making these micro agreements all the way. So if all of this is true, you're choosing prosperity, you're choosing wealth creation, you're choosing understanding, the tax code and not being a victim of the tax code. You're choosing these things. All of these things lead to a decision called financial planning. And that's what I really want to help you with. It's what's changed my life. And so that's what I think I would do.
Oh, that's great. Thanks, Paul. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, you're welcome. Thank you, my friend. Thanks for being part of the program. Go ahead.
All righty, Paul. So next up we have Marilyn Neubauer. So I'm going to go ahead and ask her to unmute, please.
Hi, everyone. Hi, Paul.
Marilyn.
And thank you so much. It's excellent training today. And Megan, thanks for always being there for me to answer my questions. But my offer is biblical based. And I still have a problem with people thinking they should have to pay for something that's biblical. So rather than keep giving them biblical reasons, would it be better if I just go back and focus on their pain and my expertise?
Yeah, thank you, Marilyn. And I have your book, and
thanks.
Yeah.
I submitted the video.
Yeah, I've got that. There's a process and we're busy, but I can't wait to have you jump in and be a contributor to the EL platform. Here's what I can say is, you're welcome. Here's what I can say is, I'm convinced that I can't convince anybody of anything. And I'm convinced that once I convince someone to be convinced, that I have to spend the rest of my life convincing them. So rather than trying to convince them with biblical principles, I think you're right. I think what you need to do is you need to take them right back to the beginning. And this really isn't necessarily a biblical decision to make an investment in your growth. It's a different decision, right? And so I think what I would want to do is speak to their pain and speak to your value. And remember that there is a transference of currency for value since the beginning of time. Now, I think once you establish the pain, and really, because I think you probably have, and I'm guessing, but my guess would be that you probably solved their pain too quickly. You probably help them and show them a way out of their pain too quickly in the conversation, so that it almost mitigates it, and then there's no reason for me to act now. Sometimes light at the end of the tunnel is enough for people not to act. So it's counterintuitive, removing the light of the tunnel and just saying, look, there's no light at the tunnel the way you're going, because you're going down, you're not in a tunnel, you're in a hole. And you're in the wrong direction. And so being able to really make them aware of that is enough to maybe shift them. And then you can absolutely talk to them about the prosperity lessons of the Bible. You can talk about, Jesus walked around in what would be considered an Armani suit today, right? A seamless garment. Well, back then, all the garments were made of rags and they were all sewn together. Jesus's garment was seamless. You know how expensive a seamless piece of cloth would have been back then? It would have been like walking around in an Armani suit. Jesus didn't want his feet washed with any oil. He wanted the best oil. So I think there's lots of biblical, backing, but I think there's a time for it. And I think it's probably later in the conversation, not earlier. I hope that helps. Right on. Thank you.
Alrighty, next up, Paul, we have Carlos Cabanas. So I'm going to go ahead and him.
Carlos Cabanas. Oh my goodness.
Yeah. Hey, Paul, how you doing? We go way back. Guardian Angels, the Amway, At Your Service.
Oh my goodness. That's right.
Yeah, we did all that. So
you knew me when I was a janitor. You knew me when I was a janitor living with 10 other guys. You actually,
I knew you when you were sleeping on Sean Kelly's floor in the Guardian Angels. We got way back.
That's right.
So, one of my issues is my mom taught speed reading, so I read 872 words a minute, and my vocabulary is huge. But the big thing is I have a huge comprehension and understanding and a recall of what I read. So I can get dragged off on a tangent, but then I can take that tangent to left field. So how do I avoid doing that? And the other would be, being the expert on the thing. Sometimes people feel like I'm browbeating them with my expertise on my product.
Yeah, well done. Thank you, Carlos. And so good to connect with you. You have been like, when I first came to Florida, this would have been in 1986. It was in the Guardian Angels. And Carlos was one of the first guys to take the front line and stand guard for the communities of Riviera Beach, Fort Pierce, Lake Worth, Delray, West Palm Beach, when there was just the crack epidemic and all the crime that came with it. And Carlos was on patrol with me, toe to toe. So thank you, my friend. Here's what I can say is the answer to the question is discipline. It's about having a disciplined structure. It's why scripting is so critically important, because every single word is fighting for its life. And so it merits having a really disciplined structure and having a script and having pre-written language patterns. And so the moment you find yourself speaking something that's not a pre-written language pattern or isn't part of the structure, you are off on a tangent. Now that takes personal discipline, right? That takes discipline to say, okay, but discipline's not a problem for you. I mean, you earned your black belt. I mean, you've earned all kinds of, you're a disciplined guy. Now transfer that discipline into the sales structure. The other thing is it's one of the points that I talked about how we could break rapport is when people feel like we're browbeating them, talking down to them, using words that they don't use, where we need to really understand who our audience is. A lot of that would be broken by having a sales script. It's why, during the 2-day mastermind that we're doing, we're going to spend probably the first half day making sure that everybody has a written script for their product and for their service. We'll spend the rest of the time practicing it and getting the tonalities, but the script and the structure is so critically important. It's like measure twice, cut once, right? And so I think the use of having a really disciplined structure, Carlos, having pre-written language patterns, and then looking at what would normally be your vocabulary. I'll give you an example. I've worked with, Dr. Daniel Amen. I've worked with Joseph McClendon. I've worked with Jack Canfield, John Maxwell. What did these four have in common is that they've all written New York Times #1 bestsellers, right? And every single one of them will tell you that they take their book and they filter that book through a program that reads the book through artificial intelligence, and any word or any structure that's above 6th grade comprehension, it gets changed and edited.
Oh,
what's that tell you, right? So you don't want to be talking above people. People don't want to be talked to. It's kind of like change. People don't resist change. They resist being changed. Make sense?
That makes sense. Thank you.
Right on. Thank you, Carlos. Good to connect with you, my friend. And I do want to say that I know there were people who could not get on today's call. I'm going to do a bonus Q&A call this coming week my team will send that out to you. So if I don't get to your question today, I know I'm already over time and I want to honor everybody's time. Why don't we say, Megan, we'll go to 10:15. That gives us 13 more minutes. And what I'll do is, if you're in the queue and we don't get to you, go ahead and post just your name in the comments. And next week when we do Q&A, I'll make sure that, we kind of call on you first. If we can find you in the queue, we'll try to do it that way, but I'll do a bonus Q&A. Why don't we go ahead and go to the next question. Thanks, Carlos. Go ahead, Megan.
Alrighty, next up we have Miss Evelyn Eckert. So I'm going to go ahead and ask her to unmute, please.
Hey, Evelyn.
Hey, hello. Hey, Paul. Hi. Good to see you.
Good to see you. I think we just lost your audio. Oh, there you go. I think we got it back. Got it back now. Good.
Sorry, I'm checking out of a hotel, so I've been moving. So my question is that, as you know, I have purchased the sales training, went through it. You and I have had a one-on-one as well. And I gained a really great account. It was $52,000 in a 2-month program that I created. So I just had Friday a follow-up to go through to the next step. And I think I broke rapport. So obviously the folks there were, I have like amazing reviews and recommendations. And I think because I didn't really understand that next process or the next steps I would take them through, I gave her some options. And, she said, well, let me think about it and come back in 2 weeks. So my question then is, how do I gain back that rapport? What do you think I can do to gain back that rapport? Because it is a growing business. I just put 70 people through a program and they're excited. I didn't want to lose that momentum. And I know sales because I trained sales for a long time. And so just listening to today and to what you were saying just made me think that I broke rapport.
Yeah, thank you so much. Thanks for the endorsement of the sales masterclass. Glad it worked for you and helped you. Here's what I'd say, Evelyn, is, good on you for knowing that you broke rapport, right? Good on you for knowing that the objection was not the objection. It's a smokescreen for uncertainty because rapport was broken. One way that you can do it in an elegant way is offer an alternative to what you originally presented as a lower action threshold, right? So if Mary says, let me think about it, she's saying, I'm really not certain that we're ready to go forward on the next step. I don't have whole clarity on this. Maybe what you can do is take the first piece of whatever process. So let's say you were offering her a 90-day program or whatever it was. Maybe what you could do is take the first piece of that and say, you know what, why don't we do this, Mary? Why don't we just take a really simple, easy first step and do a 30-day, program here? Now, that's probably the best way in this situation to reestablish rapport. The alternative is to just hold out for a minute. And I'm inclined to do that with this one, Evelyn. My gut, my intuition just tells me, because you've had so much success, because you do have so much trust in the bank with them, that I don't want you to come across as desperate, like, let's do something. So I think what I would want you to do is maybe wait a few days, maybe maybe on day 7, 6, 7, or 8, an email that just says, hey, Mary, just wanted to follow through. I know you're thinking about the proposal. If any questions have come up, please feel free to reach me. I look forward to our next appointment on the 15th at 3 p.m. In preparation for that, I'm going to send you a blah, 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 blah tomorrow at 9 o'clock so that it'll help you for our meeting on the 15th, right? So make a commitment, obligate yourself, live into that obligation, and make yourself available. I think that's probably the best thing you could do at this point. So, okay. Congratulations. Well done. $52,000. Love it. Well done.
Alrighty, Paul. Next up, we have Sarah Brumfield. So I'm going to go ahead and ask her to unmute, please.
Hey, Sarah.
Hi, how are you all? Yes, I'm country. I'm from Kentucky. So
See, I was thinking Brooklyn.
No. Yeah, real close. Okay. My question, this is regarding a Rotary club that I've gone to, and they are actually, actually I haven't gone there yet. I've just been talking through email with them, and the lady that I've been going back and forth with is just not tied in yet. She's asked 2 or 3 different times what it entails. She said she's gone to the board and they're still wanting to know more information. I've sent a follow-up letter, you know, the one that we have inclusive that explains just to follow up with you. I just am offering a lunch and learn free of charge, blah, 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 blah. Now that's where it gets tricky. I think that they are questioning why it's free. So how do I address why my service is going to be free for that initial time? Because I think there's some question as to, do you have expertise in this, or are you just trying to get a ride to get in the door? So that's where I'm at right now, is how to explain to people why a service would be free or complimentary and how you would put that to them so it sounds the best.
Brilliant. Well, great question. Thank you. Congratulations on, maintaining rapport as much as you could. I want to encourage you, let's get you out of email as quickly as possible. So in your next correspondence, I want you to, pop in, offer for coffee, say, hey, I would really appreciate, or I'm going to drop off something. I want to bring you a copy of a John Maxwell book, or I want to bring you a copy of and when I do, I'd like to just meet you for 3 minutes, just say hello. Put a name to the face, right? Put a face to the name. Here's your because. Because one of the ways I introduce myself into the business community is by offering one of my high value services complimentary.
Okay.
Okay.
Gotcha.
I've found in business relationships that I have to be as invested as I want the other side to be invested. So I'm willing to invest first. And because of that, I offer a complimentary 45-minute session.
Okay.
So that would be the language pattern. And of course, the use of the word because, the because strategy works.
Okay, great. And so offering a high value of services, complimentary, and then what was the rest of it?
Yeah, I was just going off the cuff, but so basically, what you're saying is one of the ways I introduce myself to the business community is I offer one of my high value programs complimentary.
Okay, great.
As a way to introduce myself. I've found in business that it's important for me to make an investment when I'm asking someone else to make an investment in me.
Gotcha.
I can't expect you to invest in me without me taking the first step. So I offer this high value complimentary program.
Okay, perfect.
Okay.
All right.
Yeah?
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Thank you.
All
Megan,
right,
do we have time for maybe 1, maybe 2 more? We'll try them. Let's see what we can get in.
Sure. Alrighty. So we have Anna Hyatt next. So I'm going to go ahead and ask to unmute.
Hello. Hi. Thank you so much for a wonderful training. And I love the fact that you used the stick man because he's my all-time favorite to explain the sales. So my question is, like sometimes when you're doing sales calls, sometimes people can genuinely not afford it. So I really struggle to understand when can they genuinely not afford it, or when it is because I didn't build a rapport. Because if somebody cannot genuinely afford it, then I almost start to blame myself. Oh, I must not have done a good job. And also my other a question related to the stick man. That you said, that when you change the energy of the conversation, the energy goes in the subconscious mind. But I want to understand more, like how does that happen in the nanosecond time? Like how does that, is it like because I can't almost visualize it. So I need to.
Yeah. So I think it's important. I just lost it. Your first question was just I just lost it. What was the first question you had asked? What was the first? Just give it to me one more time.
So my first question is that when somebody.
I got it. Yep, I got it. I'm sorry. You should know from the intelligence gathering whether they can afford it or not. You should know in the first 5 minutes whether you're talking to a qualified buyer or not.
Yeah.
And if you don't, that's why scripting intelligence gathering questions is really critically important. And if you do, if you find that person just doesn't meet, the financial requirements to do business with you, then do what a good sales pro does. End the call. Don't waste your time or their time. End the call. Don't talk to a non-qualified buyer.
Yeah.
It's a waste of their time, your time. Yeah. So I've found that the best way to end the call is probably one of two ways. Give them a resource that will help them.
Yeah.
Jim, at this time, I just don't feel that you're ready for this level of commitment of the type of program I'm offering. Here's what I want to do. I really believe in you, and I really believe that you're going to get there. So let me send you a copy of a free, or let me invite you to a free. Let's just, I want to invest in you, or let me refer you to a colleague of mine who offers a kind of service that I think would really help you get started where you're at.
Yeah.
So, but you have an obligation. I can't understand the reason why a sales pro would spend, a 45-minute call when they know that person's not qualified.
Yeah.
Serve them, find something that you have that can serve them, or refer them to where they can be served.
Yeah.
And maintain the relationship. I'm going to keep you on the email list. I'm going to keep giving you my free daily thought. I'm going to keep you, I'm going to put you on a list for any of the free resources I've got. Make sure you check out my YouTube training. I've got free training there.
Yeah.
And trust me, if you apply what I'm teaching, even through the free programs, you're going to find that you're going to grow and you'll be ready for the next investment. And I'll be here for you when you're ready. Okay.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Great. And then, again, the way an idea concept goes from the conscious mind to the subconscious mind is it happens in a nanosecond. You're dealing with energy. You're dealing with the speed of energy.
Yeah.
Right? You're not even dealing with ideas. You're dealing with vibration. And so it's instantly a match, not a match, not a match. It happens that instantly. That's why rapport can be established in 4 seconds. 4 seconds is an eternity. And if we think about it, just breathe. I'm going to ask you, I'm going to do this with you so you don't feel funny. You and I are going to breathe in. Okay. Hold on. Let me just get my stopwatch. Okay. Clear. You and I are going to breathe in, and I'm going to ask you to hold your breath for 4 seconds. I'm going to do it with you. Okay. And let's just see how long 4 seconds really is. Okay. Ready? So breathe in. Are you going to do it with me? Okay. Breathe in. Hold. Out.
I think I thought it was more than.
So if you think about 4 seconds, can you make a first impression on someone? Can you judge somebody that quickly? Like if somebody comes in the room and you had that much time, can you form a micro agreement about someone in that? You bet you can.
Yeah.
You bet you can. Now that doesn't mean that that's it forever. It's just saying that in that first 4 or 5 seconds, you make an impression on somebody. And then the next 4 seconds, they're asking, does the impression I just made, does these next 4 seconds match? And if it does, great. So if you come in acting professional and my first 4 seconds is to say, she's a pro, I'm going to be looking for things that make sure that you align with my last decision. The minute you do something that's against or contrary to my first impression, now I've got conflict.
Exactly.
Malcolm Gladwell dedicated an entire book. He wrote a book called Blink. In the blink of an eye, in the blink of an eye, we make that's what the book Blink's about. It's about how quickly our subconscious mind makes decisions. And usually our subconscious mind isn't accepting information, it's deleting information that's not in harmony with its existing belief.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Exactly. Yeah.
Right on. Thank you so much.
Really appreciate it.
Thank you. Hey, everybody, I want to thank all of you for jumping in today, for being part of this program. Again, I want to thank Andrew Manzano, the team at SoundTank, Holly and Megan, Rachel, Kiona, my team. You guys have been awesome. All of the team ambassadors from EL, thank you so much for supporting me, for supporting this team. Andy Hall, thank you so much. But team ambassadors, we could not do this for Empower Living. We could not give something like this without you. Just could not do it. So thank you all so much. The link will be sent out for you for a replay, as will the information for another bonus Q&A. I really hope that you'll consider joining me in a mastermind group. Spend 2 days with me and my team. Let us work with you so that we can get this done once and for all. Let's take the guesswork out. Let's get you a script that you know will work. So now, see, I don't think people have a problem doing the work. I think people just want to know that the work that they do is going to work. Like I don't mind working out on the treadmill if I know that I'm actually burning calories and I'm moving and I'm getting something done. And I don't think you mind making an investment in working if you know it's going to work. Come spend 2 days with me. Come spend 4 months with us going through the masterclass and letting us guide you through this masterclass. You heard today, I didn't even know they were going to talk about it. Just 2 endorsements, one grew $52,000 program and another $10,000. The system really works. The process works. Me and my team would love the opportunity to work with you. So check it out. There is a payment plan. It's affordable. For most of you, all you need is 1 or 2 sales to cover the investment and it's paid for. And you keep the knowledge for the rest of your life. Thank you again. I'll see you all next Saturday, 8 a.m. Be well. God bless. Bye-bye.